Down Jackson, Mississippi bum, John Arthur Banks. Boy, he's a long timer. This guy was downtown harassing people when I had my nightclubs down there back in 2003 to 2010, 2011 or so. Anyway, John Arthur Banks has been arrested for breaking into no less than 15 Jackson businesses. Yet, courtesy of the Hinds County Catch and Release Program, he is still out free despite despite pleading guilty 6 times. He's still out free to terrorize those same businesses and others in a city that's doing all it can to make a comeback after 8 years of the Chokwe Antar Lumumba reign of socialist communist terror. New York thinks they're the first city to elect a communist mayor. Contraire, mon frere, Jackson, Mississippi was the most radical city in America first. You need a sample size? You want to see how communism done right works? Come on down to Jacktown. I'll give you the tour personally. Hey, but first, before we get into this and tell you all the businesses that this man's terrorized and take a deep dive into it, courtesy of Jackson Jambalaya, this video is brought to you by the free testosterone screenings at Men's Health of Mississippi. Look, not only am I a client, not only am I a promoter, or let me say that again, not only am I a promoter of Men's Health of Mississippi and the testosterone replacement therapy, clearly from the photo here, I'm also a client. 3 years into it, down 80 pounds and in the best shape of my life. I've got the metabolic, the metabolic health of a 36-year-old, or that's my metabolic age, that of a 36-year-old. I'm 48. It works. Trust me on this. Text my name, plain and simple. There it is on the screen, 601 800 5130. Just text Clay, not Clay Edwards, just Clay. And a human being, not a bot, will text you back immediately and ask you if you're interested in weight loss or testosterone. Let them know which one suits your fancy or both. They're going to get you scheduled for a free testosterone screening at their Madison clinic within a couple days of your text. All right, that's it. Brought to you by Men's Health of Mississippi and the free testosterone screenings. Text Clay to 601 800 5130 and you can begin getting your life back. Guys, if you're suffering from lack of muscle tone, inability to grow new muscle, stubborn belly fat, lack of sexual drive, no morning wood in the morning times, those are all signs of testosterone deprivation. Let us get you taken care of. I'll tell you more about it in other videos. Text Clay 601 800 5130. All right, back to the story over at Jackson Jambalaya. Get a good look at the face of sheer evil. As far as I'm concerned, this man is responsible for running business after business after business out of downtown Jackson, and not to mention the thousands of customers that he's harassed and bummed money from over the years. This guy's a definition, textbook definition of the word terrorist, economic terrorist, as far as I'm concerned. Let's go over to jacksonjambalaya.com and take a look at the story here. I always recommend you guys swinging by there yourselves at jacksonjambalaya.com and checking out all the great stories yourself, reading it in detail. Sometimes it's hard to believe what's really going on in Jackson till you see it yourself. All right, here's the story. All right, so Kingfish titles it, "What Does It Take to Lock This Guy Up?" This came out this morning, Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. Here's the list of the businesses that he's been arrested for breaking into. Greenbrook Flowers, Pig and Pint, legendary downtown barbecue restaurant, legendary downtown flower restaurant. The Downtown Snack Shop, Steve's Deli, Downtown Drugstore, Iron Horse Grill, Shiro's, Kiefer's, La Casuela, Jocko's Tacos, Stanley Wine and Liquor, Finian's, Downtown Pizza and Daiquiri, Native Coffee and Snack Shack. That's two different places, Native Coffee and Snack Shack. These are the businesses repeatedly burglarized by Hinds County Catch and Release star pupil and downtown bum John Arthur Banks. Despite pleading guilty 6 times to hitting Jackson businesses, Banks is set free to terrorize more businesses. You know, and I find this a bit sweet, a bit ironic. After last week, some jackass from Jackson tried to harass me and blackmail me into going out and eating dinner with some of the homeless guys. Clay, you just need to hear their stories. No, I don't. No, I don't. I know most of their stories because, unlike you, I spent 10 years downtown owning a business and having to deal with these jackasses terrorizing my customers and myself and my employees for nearly a decade. I don't have to hear a fucking single story, a single word out of their mouth. The overwhelming majority of it is lies. Just tell me you need some dope. That's really the only story that they'll tell me that I believe. This jackass John here has been one of the ringleaders for well over a decade, pushing 20 years. I don't know how it ain't killed him, to be honest, but I digress. Let's continue reading the story, shall we? Check out his criminal history. Keep in mind, Banks has never gone to trial, as he always just pleads guilty. Starting back in 2009, he was indicted for business burglary. Banks pled guilty, sentenced to 5 years in prison, but the entire sentence was suspended. 2017, he was indicted for building burglary at Jocko's Tacos. At the time, Hinds County Circuit Judge Bill Gowan sentenced Banks to serve 7 years in prison, but suspended 4 years of the sentence. Bank residence was listed as Gateway Shelter. 2018, he was indicted for for building burglary. Why not business burglary? Why's it got to be building? Anyway, for building burglary at Stanley's Wine and Liquor, Judge Gowan sentenced Banks to serve 7 years in prison, but suspended 3 years of the sentence. He ordered the sentence to run concurrently with the sentence in 2017. 2019, he was indicted for business burglary of the downtown snack shop on West Capitol Street. Judge William Kidd sentenced him to serve, guess what, 7 years in prison and suspended 2 of the sentence. Banks was ordered to drug and alcohol treatment. 2020, I hadn't read all this yet. I'm reading this in live time with y'all. I like my reaction to be authentic and in the moment when I read these things. So I had not read nothing more than the first paragraph when we got started here, but I just want to say that to say this. We're at 2020, and somehow I bet that COVID has something to do with him not going to prison, seeing as how I see another sentence here in 2022. Anyway, in 2020, he was indicted for 2 counts of business burglary. Banks hit Greenbrook Flowers and the Iron Horse Grill in 2019. Judge Kidd sentenced Banks to serve 7 years in prison, but suspended 2 years of the sentence. So here's my question. Judge William Kidd, the same judge that gave him the 7 years in 2020, gave him 7 years in 2019, only suspended 2 of the years. So in theory, he should have been serving a 5-year sentence. How did we get to 2020 and him get another 7 years when he should have already been in prison for the prior 7-year sentence that he's supposed to be serving 5 of? Maybe those details are somewhere in here, but it is titled Catch and Release Star Pupil, so I doubt it. In 2020, indicted for 2 counts of business burglary. Banks hit Greenbrook Flowers and the Iron Horse Grill in 2019. Judge Kidd sentenced Banks to serve 7 years in prison, but suspended 2 years of the sentence. We just read that, so fast forward to 2022. Again, when he should be in the midst of serving about 10 years of unsuspended time. He was indicted for business burglary after he hit the Hood building. Judge Faye Peterson sentenced Banks to serve 7 years, but suspended 2 years. The district attorney agreed not to pursue habitual offender enhancement. Thank you, Jody Owens. Was it Jody Owens at the time? Yeah, for the sake of argument, Jody Owens. Thank you, Jody Owens, you corrupt piece of shit. Allegedly, of course. 2022, he was indicted for 10 counts of business burglary. 10 counts. Banks hit La Casuela, Mexican restaurant. That's the one right there at Fortification Street that's been there forever. Kiefer's on Congress Street, Shiro's Restaurant, downtown, Pizza and Daiquiri Shop, Steve's Deli, Mississippi Farmers Market, Downtown Drugstore, Pig and Pint Restaurant, Finian's, and the Tatum and Wave Law Firm. 10, count them, all 5 fingers, 10 businesses. The district attorney remanded the indictment as part of his sentence in the other 2022 case. In 2024, Capitol Police arrested Banks in July of 24 for business burglary after he hit the market Downtown Drugstore, Native Coffee, and Lou's Restaurant. Another 4 effing businesses. Good Lord. Hinds County Judge Johnny McDaniels ordered him transported to MDOC for a 1-year revocation in September of 2024. 2024 rolls around. He was indicted in October of 24 for business burglary and habitual offender in the Capitol Police cases. The district attorney seeks habitual offender enhancement for Banks. Judge Damon Stevenson sets Banks' trial for July of 2026. Oh yeah, remember that revocation? Well, the Mississippi Parole Board once again couldn't wait to put a criminal back out on the street. You can't make this up. Here's John Banks, right here, born in 1972. This guy is only 4 years older than me. I'm not saying I look like some spring chicken. And I did my fair share of drugs and alcohol and all that bad stuff in the Bible. And I have to say, I look younger than this fella by more than 4 years. Good Lord, man. I'm just kind of going through here. What is this? Makes no sense. The police is doing its job. When this old boy acts up, the police find him and lock him up. However, prosecutors, judges, and MDOC work together to keep putting this guy back out on the street, and they wonder why businesses leave Jackson. You know, we just had a big article that came out a couple of days ago over on WLBT about 3 businesses leaving Jackson. Let's see if we can find that real quick here. They weren't downtown businesses, I don't believe, but they were definitely Jackson businesses. And I can assure you they left because of, well, Jackson gone Jackson. Let's see here if I can find them real quick. They were from that County Line Road area, and they're moving out to, well, you guessed it, Ridgeland, where they feel nice and safe, and they're not going to get broken into. You know, you just can't make it up. You can't make it up. Here it is right here. Let me swap over here. I'm not going to keep y'all much longer, I promise. I promise I ain't going to keep y'all much longer. Here we go. 3 Jackson businesses closing and relocating. This from Anthony Warren over at WLBT. Anthony does great work. He's my favorite reporter over there. Says Jackson residents craving a roast beef sandwich and a large order of curly fries will have to drive a little bit farther to get them. Yeah, I knew one of them wasn't down. Any one of them was in downtown. That's what made me think about it. The Arby's on High Street, which I'm sure has been victim of our buddy John Arthur Banks several times. John Arthur Banks sounds like he should be a lawyer, like John Arthur Eves, somebody else Banks. Merge them all together. You got John Arthur Banks. As much as he gets arrested, it may behoove him to be an attorney. A lot of clowns are attorneys. It would make sense. Anyway, the Arby's on High Street is closing for good on Friday, and it ain't moving nowhere. It's just closing. Notices were posted on the establishment doors and at the drive-through window and speaker. The drive-through menu also had been taken down. You can see the photo here. There is no menu, and there's the sign letting them know that this MFR is closed. That restaurant is one of 3 businesses that have closed or relocated this week alone. The I-55 North PetSmart and the East County Line Road TJ Maxx also shuttered their location. Those businesses have relocated to Highland Colony Parkway in Ridgeland, that big new strip mall they built right next to the Costco. I saw it the other day when I rode by there. Looks really nice. Give it 10 years, it'll be a shithole just like County Line Road, because the people that frequent those places will just start frequenting it out there. And even though Ridgeland and Madison County definitely aren't Jackson and Hinds County, you can only slay that dragon for so long before it eventually wins. See County Line Road as example A. Anyway, TJ Maxx had been at the Ridgewood Court Shopping Center since 1993. Clarion Ledger reports that at that time, 1,100 people attended the retailer's grand opening. All right, guys. Y'all be sure to check out jacksonjambalaya.com. And, of course, swing by or text Clay to 601-800-5130, and you can see some results like I've seen from testosterone replacement therapy. Be blessed.